Bada bing, bada boom. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Excited to have you guys in. Come file in, spit out your chewing gum. Just kidding. Get whatever chewing gum you want and whatever beverage of choice you have that wakes you up. We are going to have well, a little bit of repeat there, a little reverb. We're going to have a good day. We're going to have a good day together. And we're going to be talking about something that might be a little bit surprising to you. I'm just hitting my record button here, if it allows me to. And we are going to jump right into this thing. And boom, boom, boom. Record. I think. Yes. Ha! Technology. You are my friend. So, all right. That was a thunderclap. All I have to do sometimes is clap, and it makes things happen here in the office of fun and plenty. Let's see. We're going to... Excuse me. All right. Accessing your genius. And the question of, is emotional frequency real? Is emotional frequency real? And I'm going to say, I'm just going to give it a yes. I'll let you decide what you want to decide. But I'm also going to put maybe a little bit different spin on this. Well, first, have you ever been in a place where you're trapped? You feel like no matter what you do, you can't get out of the pit that you're in. It feels like, what was it? The molasses pit in Candyland. It feels like you are a dinosaur in the tar, and it doesn't matter what you try to do. There's just nothing in you. My friend, this is determined by your emotional frequency. And a lot of times, actually, your success is determined by the availability of the energy that you access at any given moment. That's what we're going to get into, and it's not what you think. I want to start out by looking at this painting. We know that as Starry Night. And if I say the painting Starry Night, for a lot of you, you know who the person is that painted this. He was a master artist. His name was Vincent van Gogh. And if I were to ask you about the lifestyle of a master artist, what would come to mind for you? Rich, influential? Well, that wasn't Vincent. Vincent lived in a place where he was constantly in really a bad emotional state. He, in his whole lifetime, fought depression. He fought anxiety. He fought poverty. And during this time, he created hundreds of beautiful, valuable works. As a matter of fact, if you were to compile all of the values worth over $1 billion today. But Van Gogh, in his lifetime, only sold one painting. And he ended up dying feeling ineffective, not valuable, and not talented. Throughout his life, his brother would support him and send him money, but it was just never, ever enough. And yet here was Van Gogh in a place where what was being offered to him made him feel less than. Now, we all go through parts of our life, I think, where we are the Van Gogh. We have beautiful works inside of us, but sometimes that emotional state gets in and it alters sometimes the work before it starts. Sometimes it alters how we feel about what we're doing. And I want to talk to you about what's going on there and how we can get the good things out and not let ourselves get really blocked from from some of what we have to access. It's really funny because last week I shared the story of this statue of a dog. It's my mother's Boston Terrier that we have been watching over the last, this last week now. And something interesting happened to this statue of a dog. We discovered something that turned him into super dog, super Eddie. You know what it was? It was a laser pointer. Now, I know it's not a mystery to a lot of you dog owners that a laser pointer would alter a dog's perception of all of reality, but that's exactly what happened here. We found the laser pointer. We were in here in this office. I was discussing with my son who handles my YouTube stuff, and we found the laser pointer, clicked it on, and all of a sudden, literally, everything shifted. Personality completely shifted. And Eddie was a different dog. He literally, I didn't realize the power of this laser thing. And I pointed it at my wife's leg and he charged so hard into her that he left a bruise. So I have actually discovered a way to cause things to happen. One might say that I'm a powerful individual in my household. But what caused that? A laser. You would say, well, if you look up what a Boston Terrier was actually bred for, they were bred to chase small animals. Somewhere in his brain, I believe that laser triggers the idea that he's chasing a small animal. He was bred, that his breed was made to chase rats and rodents. And that's what I think he thought he somewhere felt like he was doing. And if you would see the transformation from statue to this vibrant dog with energy and power and belief, and there's something that was activated, it's amazing. And then it caused me to do some research and caused me to look up really the idea of what dogs are bred for. They're bred, many of them were bred, some were bred for companionship. A lot of them were bred for a type of work. And when those dogs aren't able to do some form or variation of that work, they actually get depressed. And so the reason I share all of that with you is that you have the ability to access the mindset of a Van Gogh who had great and abundant and powerful things that were beautiful, that the world valued, and yet not see it. Or you have the ability to access the energy of Eddie, who saw suddenly something that he was made for was activated and jumped into it. I have been a success coach since 2016, like full time, 2016, 2017. And one of the things that I often do with people is we go in and we look at vision and how do we find your vision and what you're going after. And it's interesting that most people are going to tell you, oh, I want more money, or I want this house, or I want, like, it's not hard for them to think about the things they want. But if you ever look and if you ever have the opportunity to ask someone what they want, ask them a couple of whys to go a little bit deeper into that. And what you'll find is that someone wants a house so they can be with their family, so they can share times of togetherness. So what they want is really, it's a feeling. It's not the thing. It's the feeling that the thing provides. All of us are looking for a feeling. And that feeling is, we're going to call it an emotion. And we're going to look at how we can find the emotion, how we can connect with the emotion, how we can allow it to be frequent or frequency, how we can do that so that it can drive us to these places of what we want. it is it's a travesty to watch so many people doing so many good things, but they stop short because somewhere they didn't believe in it. You may have heard the story as I pull this up of R.U. Darby, and I forget which book it was in, maybe Think and Grow Rich, I think. But the story of R.U. Darby is a real one where he figured out where there would be gold. He dug there, he got a little bit, dug there, and he never found any more. He was discouraged. He ended up selling off the mine and its equipment, barely making his money back that he invested into it. And someone came along, bought it, surveyed it, and said, oh, 3 feet this way. And 3 feet from where R.U. Darby had been digging, he found at the time the world's richest gold mine. Sometimes what separates you from what you want is you. So let's take a look at emotions and emotional frequency. Now, before we do this, like there are a lot of woo-woo things out there about this, and that's not what I'm a proponent of. But we're going to determine and define these two things. And so if you were to look at emotion, the definition is a natural instinctive state of mind deriving from one's circumstances, mood, or relationships with others, or an instinctive or intuitive feeling as distinguished from reasoning or knowledge. So emotion, a lot of people think emotion is the enemy, especially, certain religious beliefs. They will take that and say, nope, not me. I'm not going to follow my emotion. My feelings are liars. Well, I would say your feelings are sometimes liars, but they're often very good indicators. We're going to refer to, when we say emotion, we're going to think about energy in motion. It is your feelings. It is a combination of your thoughts, of your beliefs, but we're going to say energy in motion, right? It is like when you behave a certain way that's different than normal, it's normally not because of reason. It's because you have energy from that feeling, energy in motion, kind of like Eddie with the laser beam. Now, frequency, I'm not going after the light waves, sound waves, thought waves, all of those things, even though we're going to look at something. I'm not going to write it off completely. But I really like the idea of the rate at which something occurs or is repeated. Now, sound waves and light waves are a frequency. They're a wave. They go up and down, and the height and trough of the wave depends on what it actually communicates, right? Everything is on a frequency. I get it. I'm not going to go into, again, a lot of the parts of it that some people are saying, if you're here, then you're somehow your brain is singing at a higher tune. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to go that distance, but if you want to, you can. That's just not where I'm at right now. What we're going to talk about, though, is the frequentness. How frequent are you there? So your attitude determines your altitude, someone once said. And I would say that your frequency determines your address. And we all have an emotional address. Sometimes you wake up there. If you talk to others, they know of you as this person. And let's look at some of these charts that have been drawn up. Now, this one, again, as much as I'm saying, hey, I'm not going into this, I think some of the people that have drawn up some of these charts are, they're thinking from a different standpoint than I am, and that's okay. What we're doing is we're bringing consideration and finding what value we can from things. I think that everything is worthy of that. So we're looking at a chart here, and on the chart, we're going to start from low and work our way up to high. And on the low part, this is a place where destructiveness happens, whether you're destroying yourself or others or property. And then on the high end, this is where it's creative energy. It's where you're able to create from. And so the low energy, shame is the lowest, guilt, apathy. Shame, guilt, and apathy. as a Christian, I find that the people that oftentimes can't access the treasure within are the ones that are filled with a sense of shame. I'm ashamed of this. I'm ashamed I did that. I'm ashamed I don't know this. I'm ashamed. There's a shame, and if you listen to the work of, gosh, vulnerability. What's the lady's name? I'm misplacing her name here. Um, the lady that did the work with vulnerability. Anyway, she says that guilt is the feeling that you did something, is the belief that you did something wrong, but shame is the belief that there's something wrong with you. There's humiliation that goes along with that. Okay. And that's a bad place to be. Oftentimes, people who have felt it perpetuate it onto others. Guilt. Hey, you did something wrong. And oftentimes, if you do have the opportunity to change into a place of saying, I did something wrong and not change, like it can propel you to the next level up. But some people, they stay here and they become victims. Well, I did it wrong because of this. It's not my fault. Then we have apathy, where you are helpless and hopeless. Okay. It's interesting because as you look at your archetype, your personality archetype, some of these are the ones that you're going to feel more like when you feel your low energy, it might be this. So if you are the ruler, the shaman, the lover, you may feel more of the shame. If you are the, let's see, who feels guilt? I definitely would say the sage is, I mean, we're all prone to all of these. Apathy is definitely more of the optimist or the also known as the innocent, ends up here. Grief. Now, this is interesting. If you've ever suffered loss, the loss of a loved one, saw a friend who lost their pet recently, there's grief that goes along with this. And when you look at the negative feeling, you're saying, wait, that is negative. I don't necessarily want to be here, but doesn't it serve something? To which I would say, yes, it does. Yes, it does. It can. But none of these are places where you are supposed to remain. These are places, I would say that when you feel any of these things, it gives you the opportunity to see the other side of the coin. So whenever you see guilt or shame, sometimes that's actually what gives you the brilliance to see what is something that you desire or want to be or want to achieve. When you are feeling apathy, sometimes that's the thing where Dave Ramsey always says, get sick and tired of being sick and tired. And so when you are sick and tired of being sick and tired, sometimes that will cause you to jump into another level. Grief, sadness, regret, depression, like these things, like allowing for that sadness to occur. I believe grief opens up doors for you to explore sometimes value. You don't grieve something that had no value. And so to me, that gives actually great perspective. As a Christian, it says that there is fellowship in his suffering. It says that the Lord is close to the brokenhearted. And so all of these things, even though you're saying, I don't want to be there, you know what? Sometimes we just end up there, and understand God is with you in all of those places too. It's not that you can't, nothing happens here. There is a perspective that happens only here, but you're not meant to stay. Well, what's that next level? We're going into these, the next level of from shame, guilt, apathy, and grief is fear, desire, anger, and pride. And so for me, this gives that feeling of, I don't want to say animalistic or fleshly things, but I think animals feel these things, right? Animals feel fear, desire, anger. I don't know if they feel pride. Maybe they do. And so these are higher. And from this, you can actually like fear. Can fear do something? Yeah, it can move you from one place to another. One of the things that if you ever read the story of people like Michael Jordan, He wasn't driven by the higher things. He was actually driven to greatness by fear of loss. He said he was more afraid of losing than anything. So it was fear mixed with desire. One of the reasons that I believe that whenever people have vision that is attached only to something they desire, it could be a person, place, or thing, or whatever. It's weak in that at some point that gets satiated, maybe, or it's a moving target that they never actually catch. But desire, being the person that wants something and never having it, some of us, that's the only thing that we can be driven by. Well, I don't believe that's true. I think some of us, that's the only thing we think we can be driven by. But what happens when you obtain that? I have worked with so many people who have gotten to their high place, they achieved their desire, and now they're like, now what? Now what? So these things also serve their purpose. But again, you're not creating from fear or desire or anger. And so if you're the person that's always like creating from these things, what you're going to do is you're going to create an incomplete creation because it's always from your place of lack. If you're making a YouTube channel or a podcast or marketing and you're doing it or selling and you're doing it from a place that's here, you are really, there's something that we do. We all pick up on your energy. I don't know why or how or whatever, but there is something that's happening from the place of your being to the place of your doing. And what's happening is these things to others in some ways are repulsive. It repels sometimes what you want. It's interesting. We get to the next level, courage. And it's fun that this is really almost right in the middle. Courage, core, comes from core. And the core, C-O-U-R, is the French word for heart. Take heart. It is possible to have courage and not know what you're having courage for. I love the idea that Winston Churchill shared. He says that victory or winning happens. It's the ability for you to go from defeat to defeat without suffering or feeling or having a sense of loss. So how can you go from this place of those lower feelings? By the way, sometimes those lower feelings are there for no reason. Sometimes we just wake up with them. I can't tell you why. Maybe it's hormonal. Maybe it was what was in your diet. Maybe it's what you watched on TV. Maybe there's something real happening with you. Maybe it's your subconscious talking to you. There are a lot of reasons why we might be in these, according to these lower frequencies, these lower areas, or more slower or more destructive thoughts. I will say this: your job is not to avoid them. It's not to ignore them. It's to embrace them, see what they're telling you about yourself, and to see if you can elevate into something more. How do you find courage? How do you transfer from shame and guilt into courage? Now, for me, it's knowing that I'm loved. It's knowing that I'm accepted. It's allowing myself to sense that and feel that. In fact, we're going to practice an exercise together right now. It is sometimes easier to act your way into feeling than it is to feel your way into acting. There are too many artists out there who are waiting for the moment of inspiration to strike, and they never do a darn thing. They're waiting for inspiration, and maybe it comes, maybe it doesn't. So here's what we're going to do. I don't care what you're feeling. I just want you to do this. Like, smile as big as you can. Big, cheesy smile. Open your arms. Look up in the sky. Hold your smile. Say, I'm happy. I'm happy. I'm happy. And then say, ha. And then say, ha ha. And then say, ha ha ha. Then say, ha ha ha. ha ha ha. I know, I know it sounds insane, but here's my question. How do you feel right now? Did that alter your state of being? Of course it did. It's impossible to stand and smile and laugh. It's impossible for you to do that and not feel something. It's almost like an emotional reset. And if we are not, especially you leaders and business owners, if you're not finding a reset consistently, because of all of the negativity and the problems you're trying to solve and the puzzles that you have, and sometimes the everyone else's angst and anxiety that goes along with that, what happens is that you'll be down here. You need a reset. Some ways that you can reset: take a walk in nature, do some breathing, do some breath work, sing. I love worship music. One song for me can put me into a different state of mind in 5 minutes. The weird thing is you're going to tell yourself, I don't have 5 minutes. I would rather you take time to reconnect, recalibrate for 5 minutes, take time off of this important thing so that when you come back, you're Eddie with the laser. You're on point. You're full of energy, full of life. What is it costing you to limp along without that energy? Let's look at some of these other things. This is where creativity happens, guys. The good news is that we can get here. We can go from courage to neutrality. That's a type of peace. It's not real peace. It's just like there is a book called Neutral Thinking by Trevor Moawad. And basically his whole thing is like, hey, maybe you can't get into positive thinking, but can you get into neutral thinking? It's a great book. It's too bad that Trevor was taken from us too early. But neutral thinking, it's very helpful, because sometimes when we're trying to feel love, joy, and peace, it comes off to ourselves as feeling not real. We feel inauthentic. And so our mind and our spirit reject it. Neutrality, willingness. Okay, I'm willing. Acceptance. It's interesting that grief oftentimes leads to some of these higher emotions. Now, it's interesting that you can actually have courage and willingness before you have acceptance and reason. So a lot of times, sometimes the thing that some of you have been putting out there as a strategy is ignorance, like meaning, if I look at this thing, I will feel this way. If I look at my kids and how they're doing this, I'm going to get mad. So I'm just not going to look. If I look at my money or my taxes, I'm going to feel depressed. And so I won't look. If I look at my weight, or if I take my shirt off and look at myself in the mirror, I won't like the feeling. And so I'm just avoiding it. To which I would tell you, find a way to look at the thing, find a way to cover it, to clothe it in a good emotion. Just like we did with a smile just a moment ago, you can do this with anything. Anything. You can look at your money, at your taxes, and say, maybe you felt small and diminished, but you could say, oh my gosh, I could totally do this. No, I can do this. Some of you, in order to create the emotion, you might want to set the table. Do something enjoyable at the same time as doing the thing that's not enjoyable. The thing that you've been ignoring can be combined with a glass of wine. The thing that you've been avoiding, I hate to say it, there's this one thing that I was actually avoiding. I was putting together someone's amazing curriculum, amazing program, and I just found myself procrastinating. And what I did was I put in a couple of drops of orange into my diffuser. I love the smell of orange. I put on music that I liked and cracked open a beer. That's not something probably that's healthy for everyone, but it worked for me. I'm not an alcoholic, but it helped me to kind of surround the thing I was trying to get done with stuff that made me not resist it, because I don't resist the smell of orange or the music or a beer if someone offered it to me. So those are some tricks. Let's get to these higher elevations. So let's look at this. Love, joy, and peace. It's interesting that if you look at in the Bible, those are the things that Jesus promised: love, joy, and peace. Those are the things that he gave. Those are like those highest elements of what we have. And at the top of that, well, at the top of that is enlightenment. But if you think about from the place of love, like imagine whatever trough you're in, if you can suddenly transform yourself and say, you know what, I feel love. I'm going to love this person. I love my mother-in-law. I love this employee. It's interesting finding this is connecting with an emotion in intentionally towards a person changes the environment for everything. I remember working with people, it's hiring and firing. And like some of these people I felt like were low level. That was what my mind was saying. And when I said that, I saw them as low level. I didn't expect, I just wanted them out of my presence. And there was like almost like this feeling of like anger. Like, who are you? And I found that those days weren't very good. Instead, I decided I don't like feeling this. I don't like how I feel. Like it stays in me after like that feeling before and after my interactions with these people. What if I loved? And I thought of something, some way to find value in that person. And it's actually easier than you think. If you're going to be talking with someone that you don't get along with, come up with stuff about them that you like. It is a skill. And if you want to find something that will help you to influence people faster and more easily, it's the skill of learning how to like people, learning how to create an emotional environment for them. Find love. Find something about them that you enjoy. And listen, I have 8 children. So we've gone through stages and phases where there might be some annoyance. It's not perfect. And it's real interesting that you can put on love rather than waiting for yourself to like just to naturally feel it. So you can choose your emotion. Again, I'm not telling you to avoid any of these things or ignore any of these things. There are natural reasons to flow through those lower level feelings, but the idea is that we're supposed to pass through and not stay. Finally, at the top of the pyramid is this thing called enlightenment. Enlightenment. And I don't know how you would define it, but I believe enlightenment is the place where you feel connected to heaven. You feel connected to God. You feel connected. And in those moments, it's amazing how little your problems can become. It's like, yeah, I get it. It's there. It's okay. Like it diminishes. It doesn't remove the problem. It just removes the meaning. And if we are to look at emotions, emotions give meaning to what's happening around us. And if emotions are giving meaning to what's happening around us, what if you have been choosing to be afraid of the wrong things? What if you've been framing your story incorrectly? What if you've been basing the frame that you've been bringing on just like a habitual way of response? This is bad, so I feel afraid, so I avoid. And so, listen, lots of marriages go through hard times because people haven't learned how to navigate these things. Lots of businesses get shut down too early because people don't understand this about themselves. I'm going to end this with a story. And tell you what, before I start the story, let me go here. Yes, that is a treasure box. I'm a collector of treasures, and I love what stories can do for us. Um, there was a man who was driven by finding treasure. His name was Mel Fisher, and in the 50s, he grew up off of the coast of California and found a sunken ship here or there, found some treasure, like some things of minor significance. And it was in his adulthood, like that, the 30s, the 40s, that he started getting, I don't want to say possessed, but he felt driven to find the most famous, the most valuable treasure that anyone had ever reported. It was the Nuestra Senora de Atocha. The Nuestra Senora de Atocha was a ship that was in the 1600s. It was during the time of colonization of America. And there were all kinds of countries that had colonies here, and they would bring the wealth of those colonies back to the homeland. And that's what was happening. Going from Florida, I believe it was Florida, going back to Cuba or Spain, there was a boat that was sunken with a hurricane, Nuestra Senora de Atocha, and there were a bunch of ships, so the reports were very reliable. They knew that this was the case. This had a ton of treasure on it, and this man, Mel Fisher, decided, I can find this. I can find this treasure. And so he began his search, and when anytime anyone's searching for treasure, there is a funding of the search. And so he had to convince people to give him the money to do it. And off the Florida Keys to go searching for this treasure. And he got the money, at least the initial round. But he searched and searched and searched, and he couldn't find it. And then he started getting ridiculed. He already was catching a lot of flack from people who were also people who would hunt for treasure. But it started getting intense, and it wasn't just from other treasure hunters. It was from his family, of like, what are you doing? Why are you wasting your time and your life? Like, there's why? And he just paid them no attention. As a matter of fact, it's interesting because he would face lots of difficult times. And he never set, well, I don't want to say he never set a timeline. The timeline that he gave himself is today. He said, today is the day. Almost every day he was known for saying this phrase, today is the day. He didn't set goals for himself like within this year or within 18 months or 2 years or 3 years. He just said, today is the day. It reminds me of the timeline that you will always notice that Jesus gave in the New Testament. He would always say soon or very soon, but he would never say, this year or at that time. So today is today. Today is the day, is what Fisher would say. And things happened. Storms happened. Boats wrecked. He had to convince the financiers to give him more money. It was hard. He had to change financiers. He had to keep talking people into it. As a matter of fact, this is in the 80s, it took over $1 million, up to almost $1 million, to actually fund all of what was happening. During one expedition, I'm not sure if it was during an actual hunt but they were out on a boat, and there was a boating accident, and his son died. Certainly, nobody would blame him for stopping what he was doing. Nobody would blame him for finding a reason to stop being depressed and just giving up. But instead, he used his son's life and death as something to propel him. His wife also passed away. And in the midst of these things, he did not quit. Today is the day. Today is the day. Today is the day. That's what he would always say. And in 1985, he found the Atocha. And when he found the Atocha, He found the beginning of the wreckage. Then he found gold bars, and then he found tens of thousands of bullion and coins, and it was a treasure trove worth $400 million. He didn't lose sight. He found it. In 1985, he actually had to fight against the state of Florida to keep it, because the state's saying, this is our treasure. Thank you for finding our treasure. And he fought them legally. And in 1992, he actually won possession of the treasure he found. You have treasure within you. Are you willing to fight for it? Are you willing to engage with it? Are you willing to face adversity for it? There's this thing that happens with frequency. Frequency creates comfort. What's the place that you go to most frequently out of all of the places you go to? Is it your office? Is it the coffee shop? Is it the grocery store? Is it the pool hall? It's not. It's your home. It's the place of your peace. It's the place that you want to return to, even if you spent a week or a month in the Mediterranean. You always want to come back home. Why? There's nothing that feels quite like your bed. The place you frequent becomes the place that you connect with, the place that you are. And I would say this: look here, look in this chart. Find a place that you want to live. Determine that this will be who you are. Determine that this will be your first reaction, the first response. This is your emotional address, that when people think about you and they sense you and they feel you and you talk to them, they're going to sense one of these, because love sounds different than anger. Joy sounds different than fear. It feels different than fear. Elevate yourself. Choose your emotion. Allow yourself to go through the negatives, but also come back home. Find a way to get back to the place where you determined is where you're moving into. And if you're not in the place of love or joy or peace, determine you're going to move into that place and make it happen. My life changed when I told myself I was going to become the most joyful man I knew. It changed everything. Changed how I responded to my children. Changed how I responded to adversity. And here's the thing, guys. When you are in these higher places, you have access to resources that you can't see when your mind is in the lower places. When you're angry, you're not looking at options. When you're in love, you see all of these ingredients that are now at your disposal. So find a way here. And hopefully this helps you in your journey. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to ask for those of you who are here in the in School of Professional Design here, you are allowed to obviously throw out the questions, the live questions. You throw a hand up and I'll bring you up live. You plug your question into the chat and I will I'll take it that way. I know that this is a little bit of a different thing, but your energy absolutely does determine how you enter into the world. And sometimes we don't choose it, and other times we do. We don't have to be afraid of it if it's negative. We just have to allow it to pass as we climb back up to the place that's our normal. Anything, hands up or a Q&A, pop your Q&A in and we will address that. All right. Well, thanks for joining me on this Tuesday. If you are in Florida, which I am, hunker down, buckle up, get some water, get some batteries, or get out of the state, because you can always come back, right? We can always come back and pick up the sticks that are in our yard. So hope you guys are good. We will see you on the journey.